Hey everyone, this is Dr. Steve Orma, and today I want to answer the question, how long does it take to overcome insomnia, following the process that I've kind of laid out over the last several videos. I went in great detail through the process for overcoming insomnia, a very powerful and effective treatment, really the only one that's actually, that actually works for insomnia. And so a common question that people have is, well, how long does it take if I go through this process and I commit and I go and I do this work? How long does it take exactly? Well, that's not a simple question to answer for several reasons. I am going to give you an idea of how long it takes and give you a range based on the science, based on my personal experience, helping dozens and dozens of clients go through this. And I'm going to give you a range, but really it varies, and there's several different factors that determine how long it takes. So basically the range, I'll describe the range that I've seen, and then I'll describe why there's this variability in how long it takes. The variability that I've seen, the shortest I've seen anyone go through this process and kind of get past the insomnia is maybe about 6 weeks, 7 weeks. The longest I've seen it take for everyone that I've worked with is the highest was 20 weeks. Okay, so 20 weeks is, 4.5 months or something like that. But I would say most people are going to fall somewhere between, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, somewhere in that range is where most people are going to take. So when I went through insomnia and I followed this process, it took me about 10 weeks to fully get past the insomnia and be on a normal, healthy pattern of sleep. Some people it takes a little less, some people it takes more. And it just depends on several factors. So why is this an important question to answer? Well, number one, before you commit to this treatment, a lot of people are thinking, well, how long is this going to take me? And if I'm going to commit to this process, what am I looking at here? They want to know this question because you want to have a certain expectation going in. But at the same time, you don't want to have an expectation that it's, going to be a lot shorter than you think it is. If you ask many CBTI providers, so CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, which is kind of the process, that my program is built on, it's the gold standard. But if you ask a lot of providers or practitioners of CBTI how long it takes, some of them will say, oh, it's 5-6 weeks. And frankly, maybe I've seen one person in 8 years get past it in that amount of time. Now, there's a distinction here to be made. Number one, you can learn the core skills that you need to know, that you need to implement in about 5 weeks. So you can learn those skills. But there's a difference between learning the skills and implementing the changes around your sleep and actually getting rid of the insomnia. And learning the skills and starting to apply them, you can do that in 5 weeks. But for most people, the insomnia isn't going to be gone then. So to give you an analogy here, if you are trying to lose weight, it might only take you a few weeks to learn a new diet and start implementing it in your life, and learn a new exercise program and start to implement that. But that doesn't mean all the weight's going to be off in that period of time, 3 to 5 weeks. That's the time it took you to learn the skills and the process and to start implementing it. But, then that has to take effect in your body and change, your system and start to burn off calories and where you actually start to lose weight. And then that can take a while depending on how much weight you're losing. So it's the same thing with this process. This is a behavioral treatment process. And so there's the learning of the skills and applying them and implementing them. And then there's sustaining that. And I mentioned this when I went through each of the weeks of this process. Once you get to week 2, 3, a key part of it is adjusting the skills every week based on how your sleep is progressing. So how while your sleep is progressing and changing and getting better, each week as you're going through the process, you're adjusting the skills based on where your sleep has been over the last week. And basically, once you've learned all the skills and you've been applying them, now you need to adjust every week. You need to adapt. You need to personalize it to your sleep pattern and how it progresses. And you need to do that for as long as necessary until the insomnia is gone. And as I said at the beginning, I gave you a range of numbers for what that looks like for most people. Now, why is there this different range? Why do some people get past insomnia, let's say in 8 weeks, other people 10 or 12, and maybe other people it takes them longer than that, 15 weeks, 20 weeks? Well, it depends on a lot of different factors. Number one, it depends on the nature of your insomnia. So insomnia is difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or both. So it's difficulty, initially falling asleep, or it's difficulty, let's say you fall asleep fine, but then you wake up in the middle of the night or early in the morning and you can't get back to sleep. And that happens at least a few nights a week. That is insomnia. Or you could have both of those, difficulty falling and staying asleep. But how that shows up for each person can vary a lot. So, for instance, someone might just have onset insomnia, but not maintenance insomnia. Maintenance insomnia is difficulty maintaining sleep. So it might be easier for that person. So if it's like you just have one type of insomnia, it might not take as long because the problem is a little bit simpler. It's still insomnia, but it's not as complex. But someone else might have both kinds. You might be taking medication. You might be taking several medications. I've seen people who are taking 3 or 4 medications. You might also be, taking CBD or smoking marijuana or drinking alcohol or taking all kinds of supplements. Okay, the more factors that are involved in the insomnia, the longer it can take and the more sort of complex it is. And I've seen anyone from, let's say they've had insomnia for 3 weeks to people who have had it for 30 years and people taking different types of medications and all these different kinds of things. So these different variables affect how long it takes to get past the insomnia. Now, other things that interfere with this is age. The older someone is, I have found, it usually takes them longer to get past the insomnia. Now, why is that? It's usually because they have other issues going on. So I've seen, I think the oldest person I've had in my program has been in their 70s. A lot of people in their 60s and 70s. And what I find is sometimes it takes them a little bit longer to get past insomnia, not because they can't. They eventually do if they stick with it, but because they're older, there's other medical issues or hormonal issues, or they have chronic pain, or they're taking other medications for other things outside of sleep. Now, all of these things change how long it takes them to get past insomnia, because they're not just dealing with insomnia, they're dealing with these other factors. Another thing that can affect it is if someone has other mental health issues going on, like, a serious anxiety issue or depression, or I don't know, they're having, major relationship issues or other stressors going on in their life. Those things can also, extend the amount of time it takes them to get past the insomnia. And then a couple other things affect it. How committed are they to the process? So it's not just a matter of time to get past insomnia, it's the quality of that time. It's, are you committed to the process? Are you implementing all the skills and following the steps? Are you doing that consistently? And are you doing that with the right mindset, meaning the right attitude? You're managing your emotions. Now, I teach my clients how to do all of this. I give them all of the specific steps of, the mechanics of it, the changes in the behaviors around their sleep and how to track their sleep and how to personalize it to their particular form of insomnia, how to taper off medication or supplements or drugs. So I teach them how to do that, and I also teach them the mindset. So I've talked about this in the previous modules, like how do you manage the negative thoughts around your sleep? How do you manage anxiety or frustration, or the mental and emotional part of it, which is really key to being able to stick with the process. So I teach you all of that, but each person going through it, you have to apply it. You have to implement it, because I can't do that for you, obviously. Just like, if you're in an exercise program, you have to ultimately do the exercise. You have a trainer, you have a coach who's, telling you what to do and hopefully guiding you through that effectively. But it's up to you to actually apply it and do the work and follow the steps and stick with it. So what I found, the more committed generally someone is to the process, and the more consistent they are with that, the faster they're able to get past the problem as well. And then the last element I would say here is the expertise of the provider or the program you're going through. It's one thing knowing the steps in the treatment. It's another thing knowing how to implement it. And if you're working with someone, their ability to teach you and guide you in that process. So that is critical, because if you're not being guided correctly, if the process isn't being implemented effectively and correctly, then the outcome and the results, even if you're fully committed, even if you're following it step by step, you're not going to get very good results. I mean, it makes sense, right? If you don't know how to swim, and you go to a coach who's teaching you how to swim, but the coach isn't very good and is not really teaching you, the right form with your, different swimming strokes. They're not teaching you how to train effectively to become a better swimmer. No matter how hard you're trying and how committed you are, you're not going to get good results. So all of these different factors determine and affect how long it takes each individual person to get past the insomnia. And that's why there's this range. One other thing actually that can affect it is everybody is an individual. We're all human beings, but we all have our own individual bodies, and we have a different, biological variations in our systems. And because of that, that can affect, even if someone has a lot of similar, they're the same age, they're the same gender, their insomnia is pretty similar. A lot of the variables can be the same, but there still can be differences in terms of their biology. Just like we have different metabolisms. So some people have a faster metabolism for food, and some people have a slower metabolism. People are built differently. So all of these different things create what I call a unique and nonlinear pattern. So everyone's pattern in terms of their course of how they, as they're going through this process, and how their sleep and insomnia progress is completely different. It's like a fingerprint for each person that I see when they're going through my program. Everybody's pattern is different. And it's nonlinear, meaning it's not like a straight line of, better every day. It's like, it's a variable pattern. And it's unique to them based on these different variables that I just mentioned. So because of all that, that is going to affect how long it takes from the person, from the time they start the program and the process to the time they get past the insomnia and get on a normal, healthy, consistent sleep pattern. It's going to vary based on these different factors that I just went over. So I hope that gives you some idea of, when you commit to this process, or if you decided to work with me, how long is this process going to take? And this is why having correct expectations, I help my clients set expectations at the start so they're in a good mind frame where they don't get, it helps with the frustration or the anxiety along the way, because they're setting more realistic and optimistic, but realistic expectations for what they can expect. And one of those is the amount of time that it will take them to get past the insomnia. And, because of this is why, I've talked a lot about how sort of a generic type of CBTI, many times it doesn't work that well for people because they go, they meet with the therapist or the provider and they learn the skills, the basic skills in, let's say, 5 weeks. And then they're cut loose and they're on their own. And now they have to implement these things on their own. They have to keep adjusting the skills each week on their own. A lot of questions and challenges come up along the way and they don't know what to do. And therefore they can't fully get past the insomnia. I've had so many people come to me who have had that experience. And what they're missing there is enough support that once they have the skills and they know basically what to do, to be able to stick with it and adjust it for a long enough time and implement it for a long enough time to get past the insomnia and be able to know what to do when challenges come up and where they have questions that aren't being answered. So this is why I provide so much support in my program for as long as people need to be able to get all the way there. Because otherwise you're kind of stuck on your own trying to figure this stuff out. So I hope that was a helpful video today to give you an idea of like the time frame of, how long it takes to get past insomnia when you implement this process that I kind of described over the last several weeks, and why there's a variation between each, client, person going through that process, and how it's very unique to each person. In terms of how long it takes to get past the insomnia. All right. So if you found this video helpful and you're watching on YouTube, you click the like button. You can also subscribe to the channel so you're alerted whenever I post a new video. I generally post a new video every single week on like a Monday or a Tuesday. And if you have any comments or questions, you can leave them below. And sometimes I'll make like this video today came from, a comment and a question that someone left in YouTube. So I read through all of those, and, if I see like a really good, something that might be good for a video, I'll do a video on it. So you could do that if you want me to address a question that I haven't addressed so far. All right. So I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you next time.